Kyle here from allmeterviews.blogspot.com, here to do the next Fates Warning album video, discography video, and I'm going to try going chronologically. I'll confess I listened to Long Day Good Night over the last couple days in the car, and so I'm kind of tempted to talk about that, but I'm waiting on that. I didn't even listen to the whole record. This was last week, but I know the last few songs well enough. Yeah, I kind of did. I thought I just wasn't listening that closely. But The Spectre Within, which came out in 1985, the second album, Fates Warning, their sophomore record, October of 1985. I don't actually have a date. So it was about, I think, September of 84 was when Night on Brocken came out. So it was about a year later. So here's my original CD booklet. I always got the reissues because, of course, I discovered this in the mid-90s. And I do remember one thing about this record in that this was the last of the Arch period records I got. And I remember I got this, I think it was at Sam Goody in West St. Paul. It was like some year in 96. I forgot to also mention that Fates Warning had played on the Rush tribute, Working Man, a show of bands. And I had also acquired, being a Dream Theater fan, the John Arch demos when he did some songs that ended up on Dream Theater's debut album, When Dream Day Unites. So I'd been taking in a little more Fates Warning. I'd listened to some of the Ray Alder stuff too, so I wasn't buying them in order, of course. But I remember when I got I was so excited for it because I had liked Awaken the Guardian and Night in Brocken, and I was getting all the Ray Alder stuff. I was like so excited because I know it had the apparition. I think I'd even bought the Chasing Time compilation. So I have a distinct memory of just being super excited when I picked up this record. This is the final record that it features Victor Arduini, I think. And I'm not sure, again, how is the bass player. I said DeBias. I don't know if it's DiBiase or DeBias. This is like a Darrow Andrew thing with Fair to Midland. Because I've seen it pronounced both ways. Because Jeff Wagner was on a podcast back in June I listened to this past week, and he was saying his name DiBiase. That's how I always said it myself. But anyway, so this album, I almost immediately, when I got almost all the Fates Warning records, I think all of them, I always considered it my favorite, and still do, really, of all the Arch period. Mainly because it has a few distinct tracks I love. Let me show the vinyl, too. So I literally was looking for this for years. I could have gone onto eBay and find it, but I found it at Agarda Records. I think it was Agarda. And I'm not sure if this is a first pressing, though. Yeah, it was at Agarda. Because I bought this like on Record Store Day, July 17th last year, so a little over a year ago. It was like, I still don't have every vinyl, but this is the last of the Arch ones that I got. In fact, when I did that Fates Warning video, I didn't have it back in 2015 or 16. This is a splatter. So this must be a reissue, Metal Blade Records, because I don't think back in the 80s they would have. But so I'll say this. This is more progressive in a lot of ways. Although sound-wise, production-wise, fidelity-wise, guitar tone-wise, even a lot of the influences are still very similar to Night on Brocken, the debut album that came out the year before. But the Apparition, Epitaph, and Traveler in Time, especially Epitaph, became like one of my favorite tracks. In fact, if I do a track's favorites, I'll have to do that. That would be awfully high. It wouldn't be number one, probably. Not to spoil it too much, but yeah, this is a reissue, no wonder. 2020, so I still would like to get a first pressing someday of this. The Apparition I used to try to sing along to, especially. That song by Caddisfly, we're talking about these, clay gold things. It's like it talks about, I should look at the lyrics. The lyrics are on the back here on the Apparition. The Apparition it has its reason to like sing along to it. The first is a young boy, white dove in his hand, and the second is a warrior in armor. It says Amor. What in the world is the deal with publishing? I thought it's armor. Because Jeff Wagner's book, I think he said armor. Anyway, I'm not going to get into this whole thing with misprinting of lyrics and titles and stuff like that, like I did with the last one. The third is an old man, gold watch in his hand. The fourth and last, no reflection. Yeah. the energy on that song is just so infectious. I grew to love that song even more when I heard it on the record. I heard it on that Chasing Time compilation, but The Apparition is an absolute banger, a stone cold classic. But I think even Epitaph is even greater. The time changes, the different movements, the moods, and then to me the closing like kind of climax with those synths. I always would get goosebumps. I couldn't believe how good this was. It was like taking that raw, almost thrashy metal sound and adding that kind of, I wouldn't call it like Dream Theater, because Dream Theater didn't even exist at this point. And I wouldn't call it even like Rush. Kind of like Rush, but not even. It was very unique. It's like this really was what progressive rock and heavy metal sounds like when you mix them. With, you know, the metal part being still the primary part of the sound, but Traveler in Time also, the little chimes and stuff like that. This record, though, Orphan Gyppie, Pirates of the Underground is an epic as well, and I think I've probably overlooked that over the years. I always liked it. Without a Trace, Kyrie Eleison, and then, yeah. So, I mean, every one of those songs, I think it's like you take some of the sort of mid-level songs on Night on Brocken and make them better. They have a little more punch, a little more mystery, a little more, they're a little more refined. It's like, you know, I could write a song like that, but it's a little bit better. And then the sort of fantasy element or whatever is a little deeper. Now, the word, like, the apparition talks about, like, an alien. Of course, the Deer Hunter and Caddisfly both use that. The apparition's like an alien from another realm, another, you know, dimension. And I always assumed that this was an apparition on the cover. Iconic in some ways. So, yeah, the Spectre Within is just, you know, I mean, you could say that they, you know, you did other things that were things I thought were more, I enjoyed more in other records, but it was just weird. Something had to do with when I got this record, not the salvage. I made the most of it. I enjoyed it the most. What's that word? Not salvage. I savored it more than Awaken the Guardian and even some of the all the records I hadn't heard. I can't remember if this may have been the last one. I may have already picked up No Exit on cassette and some of the other ones, Parallels and Perfect Symmetry. I just savored it because I guess that's part of it, is that this was the record that came out when I was maybe the most hungry and the most like sort of, I was looking for something at that point musically. There was a few other bands, and it just blew me away. Like I savored it. I literally was just not in awe of it, but I was just so happy. Part of it was maybe my personal life, and I was exploring different bands at that point. King's X, Savatage was another one. The mid '90s, and having enjoyed the other albums to different degrees, and I just was like, God, I'm so happy to get this. This is definitely in like the top 10 compact discs in my compact disc buying time, which was about largely what I'd buy with compact discs. It actually was kind of more in early, because that was the mid 90s. I was still buying tapes when I was in high school. But top 10 CDs I ever bought in terms of my sort of excitement, enjoyment, and it wasn't even a new release. I think what I did was I special ordered it. Yeah, that's right. And I don't even know if I knew about the import company, because it was that same goodie. They had it on their list, and I special ordered it, and it came in. So, yeah, I mean, I've always had a very huge soft spot for this album. I think part of it is, and I'll talk about Awaken the Guardian in the next video. Hopefully I'm doing this chronologically. Awaken the Guardian has been praised almost to no end of the John Arch period. And I always felt like this album, The Spectre Within, I always think is it Spectre or it's The, is a little overlooked. It's like, yeah, it's got a couple really great tracks on it. It's like, no, you listen to this and you listen to Awaken the Guardian, you know, the argument can be made, even though it didn't have Frank Oresti, you know, and they were still finding their footing. But I think there's just a great storytelling element and tone and atmosphere to this record. It's like they should make a movie out of it. I mean, with the apparition and stuff. I don't even know who did the artwork. I should look that up right now. It's probably right on here. Artwork, special thanks to. Yeah, this is right around the time Dream Theater formed when they met at, you can't even read this, Brian Slagle, of course. Queensryche's mentioned. Of course, they were contemporaries of Queensryche. Queensryche had already put out Warning and their EP, the first one, which I always think is their first album. I don't know. Let's see. What does the Wikipedia say? Artwork. Who did the artwork? Because it's probably the same person that did Third Image. It doesn't say anything more about that. I don't know. Maybe I'll follow up with that. I don't have time to like do all this research right now. I'm sure it's mentioned in here in the book. So, but anyway, what's your take on the second Fates Warning album? Came out October 1985, so it'd be whatever it would be, 37 years ago, in a few months. Do you think it's dramatically better? Do you think Epitaph, The Apparition, Epitaph, of course, this King Crimson. There's a lot of bands that had a song called Epitaph, but yeah, I've always had a soft spot. I really love this album. It's like, that's why I want to seek out a first pressing if I can at some point. Mastered for vinyl. It's mastered by Patrick W. Engel, May 2020. Engineered by Bill Meteor, which that guy Metoyer. I think he did a bunch of other. He did work with them and some other bands I like. So, but thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And we'll see you next time.